Okay, video number 3. We should finish the test and then maybe get into some other stuff. Maybe make one more video for some review. We're on number 40. In May of 2015, a federal appeals court ruled that the National Security Agency's collection of American phone records was in violation of the USA Patriot Act. Which of the following core values are involved in the national debate regarding the surveillance program referred to in the scenario? So, a concept about or like kind of a current event, the struggle versus national security and individual liberty in the wake of 9/11, wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and then the passage of the USA Patriot Act, and that the NSA, Edward Snowden, revealing all those leaks, finally by the courts being told that they're not allowed to collect phone records. Anyway, then it gets into just a much more general, those core values. Well, you just look at which one makes sense. It's not about federalism in C. It's not about common good versus freedom of expression. That's, what does that even mean? Common good is even more general than these others. It's not even about majority rule versus minority rights, because it's not about a minority. It's not all people's phone records. The answer is A, liberty versus stability and order. National security versus individual liberty. All right, then we got these questions. Remember the strategy on these style of questions. You have 2 columns, and as you go through, if you can cross off one of them, then that entire A, B, C, or D is wrong, and you look for one where you can't cross off either. Which of the following accurately compares the powers of Congress and the president? Don't be thrown off by this. Congress has greater control. That's just meaning, okay, what's the power of Congress? What's the power of the president? Power of Congress in the first column, power of the president in the second column. Judicial appointments, not really. They do confirmation. So we can already cross off A. The president does the appointments. Budgetary policy, okay, maybe they do pass the budget. The president submits one, but it's Congress has to pass it. So budgetary policy, can't cross that off. Cabinet appointments, no, the president definitely makes appointments. We just said that. So maybe B. The bureaucracy, Congress has greater control of the bureaucracy. Well, no, the president does. The executive branch does. Can cross off C. Military leadership, not really. The president is the commander-in-chief, so we can probably cross that one off. Foreign treaties, the Senate is in charge of foreign treaties. Definitely cross off D. The answer is B. Budgetary policy for Congress and cabinet appointments for the president. Which of the following is a correct comparison between the United States Constitution and the Articles of Confederation? We could go through that whole process for all of these, but surprisingly difficult question. I don't know what everybody picked, but only 48% of people got this right when it was given as an AP exam. But the answer is B, granted Congress the power to levy taxes under the Constitution and states to levy taxes. We should know that. So the answer is B. Which of the following is an accurate description of the powers of the House of Representatives and of the Senate? And that answer is also B. Remember, the House initiates all revenue bills. What does that mean, initiates? They start in the House. They still have to go through the Senate. What's a revenue bill? A tax bill. It's just one of these things we should know. Tax bills, revenue bills have to start in the Senate. And you guys should know, of course, that the Senate confirms presidential appointments, advice and consent, voting on judges, voting on cabinet nominees. 44, which of the following is the answer was B. 44, which of the following is a correct comparison of the positions of libertarians and conservatives on matters of social policy? A libertarian would support the right of same-sex marriage. A conservative would oppose it. Why would a libertarian support same-sex marriage? Because they don't want the government involved in really any personal decisions, any economic decisions, in anything. And so stay out of my personal decisions, say libertarians. But conservatives, it's a social issue where they want traditional family values, Protestant religious family values. So A is the answer. 45, which of the following is an accurate comparison of the checks held by the legislative and judicial branches? Slightly hard question. But the answer is A. Can the legislative branch check the judicial branch by impeaching and removing federal judges? People probably miss that because they didn't know that that's the case. But of course they can. They don't impeach judges very often, but it is a constitutional power. Congress can, just like the president, they can impeach and remove federal judges. Remember, that came up earlier. They can't, though, then just appoint new justices in their place or new judges in their place. The president would have to do that, right? But they can impeach and remove federal judges. Can the judicial branch declare an entire law unconstitutional? They kind of try to throw you off with the word entire, but I mean, yeah, they can. That's judicial review. So the answer is A. 46. Which of the following scenarios is most closely related to the Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission? That would be B. A labor union spends millions of dollars to independently run negative advertisements about a presidential candidate shortly before the election. Remember, we say corporations for Citizens United versus FEC, but it's not just corporations. It's corporations and labor unions, super PACs created by both those groups. You might not want to pick it because it doesn't say corporation, but in fact it's both. The best answer is B. 47. A member of Congress who advocates for a more Keynesian approach to solving a recession will likely support which of the following policies? C. Increase federal spending on infrastructure programs. Why not A? Because A is supply-side economics. A is the other one that they want us to know in AP Gov of like economic theories for fiscal policy. They're both fiscal policy. Keynesian would be the more sort of liberal, generally speaking, approach. Supply-side economics, Reaganomics, would be the more conservative approach, and that's what A is. B doesn't make any, like what? No. And then D is monetary supply. That would be the Fed, not the job of Congress, not Keynesian. C is the fiscal policy of Keynesian economics, Congress increasing federal spending to stimulate the economy. Arthur M. Schlesinger, The Imperial Presidency, a very famous text from 1973. Which of the following statements is a correct implication of the author's argument? C. The perception of multiple crises has led to the growth of an executive branch that is undermining the separation of powers in government. You get that from the title. He's saying the president probably has too much power now. 49. Based on the passage above, which of the following constitutional provisions would the author most likely identify as a solution to the problem of the imperial presidency? That would be Congress insisting that it declare war prior to the use of international force, because if you actually read the excerpt, that's mostly what it's about. The president does make war now without a congressional declaration of war. We mentioned that. That hasn't even happened since World War II. So instead, they just get some sort of random congressional approval. And Arthur Schlesinger would say, no, you need Congress to actually declare war. Which of the following situation best reflects the author's concern about an imperial presidency? And that is also B, the president issuing an increasing number of executive agreements. Remember, executive agreements are informal power of the presidency dealing with other countries. So which one is the president, kind of overstepping his bounds? It's B. 51. Which of the following is an accurate comparison of the text by Schlesinger and Federalist 70? Remember, Federalist 70, Hamilton said he wanted a single, unitary, powerful president. The answer is A. While Schlesinger views the centralization of power in the presidency as dangerous, Federalist 70 views it as vital to the president's effectiveness. A. Issues mentioned by 3% or more of respondents to open-ended question. What do you think is the most important problem facing the country today? Which of the following is a limitation of the data when drawing a conclusion about the most important problems facing the country in 2017? B, the data were collected in a short time frame, which does not reveal a full year trends, January to February. So yeah, that's definitely a drawback. Remember, data is actually plural. That's why it says the data were collected. That's grammatically correct. Which of the following represents the most likely way the information on the table will be used? This was a difficult question. C, Congress will use the data to suggest there is support for their legislative proposals. We mentioned dissatisfaction with government. So that's kind of implied, like, why would Congress use that? Well, it doesn't say Congress. It just says with government. So that one, okay, it's gone up. So that does seem to negate C. That's why this question was so hard. But in everything else, there's they're all things that Congress deal with: immigration, the economy, race relations, unemployment, national security. And so what do you think is the most important problem facing this country today? They're just saying in general, because the others don't make a lot of sense. In general, it's almost like the percentages don't actually matter. You just have to apply the concept that Congress is going to use polling to say, like, in fact, even this dissatisfaction with the government, that could mean lots of different things. And Congress, it could be a particular party within Congress saying, see, look, the people don't like what's happening. That's why our proposals are better. It's how will the data be used? The others don't make sense. Like, it's not about elections. It's not about PACs and social movements. Like, they don't bring stuff to courts. That would be interest groups, not social movements themselves. So there's something wrong with all of them, and definitely a hard question, but C is what would actually happen. You just don't know the specifics behind which party is saying what, or 54, a person claiming that the House can pass legislation with simple majority, but the Senate is unlikely to pass legislation unless the bill has the support of a 60-vote supermajority is most likely to cite which of the following institutional differences as cause of this trend. Okay, important question, and also a hard one, but it shouldn't have been, right? We just know that when you're talking about a 60-vote supermajority, you're talking about the filibuster, you're talking about cloture, and you're talking ultimately about rules on debate. The House has strict limits on debate, while the Senate allows unlimited debate. D. And 55, Arizona enacted an immigration law in 2010 claiming the legislation complemented existing federal law. The Obama administration disagreed, claiming that state law conflicted with national law. Which clause of the Constitution did the Supreme Court most likely use to strike down a section of the state law? Well, which one is about, this is about federalism. And when you're thinking federalism, the federal government is supreme over the states, McCulloch versus Maryland, but it is the supremacy clause, D. All right. I've got 3 minutes left on this recording. That was the test. So wait a minute. Oh yeah. With the last few minutes here, I wanted to get into, like, you can look at this document because I feel like this is something we didn't, when we were doing our review, talk about too much. I want to highlight for you some of the important parts of the Constitution, because it does come up. I'll highlight the ones that I think will come up. Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8. I need you to remember Article 1, Section 8. Article 1, Section 8 is where you have the enumerated powers of Congress. You remember that Article 1 is about Congress, the legislative branch. Article 1, Section 8, that's what this little symbol means, like in legalese, is this as a section. Article 1, Section 8 has all the enumerated powers of Congress, things that are actually listed in Congress as powers, in the Constitution as powers of Congress. There's 18 of them. You did it at the very beginning of the year. A part of Article 1, Section 8 is the Commerce Clause, the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states, that is to say, interstate commerce. You have the Bill of Attainder, you have Contracts Clause, those aren't going to come up as much. Remember, you do have a Due Process Clause in the Fifth Amendment for the federal government, but more importantly, you have the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, saying that states cannot deny people of the due process of law, and that states cannot deny people equal protection of the laws. Due process having to do with civil liberties, equal protection having to do with civil rights. Due process, the Bill of Rights for everybody. Everybody has, the states can't deny people all the rights provided in the Bill of Rights. Equal protection has to do with civil rights. Specific groups of people, marginalized people, racial minorities cannot be denied equal justice, equal protection of the laws. You have the Elastic Clause. So remember, those are both in the 14th Amendment. These are just in alphabetical order. But the Elastic Clause, which is the Necessary and Proper Clause, is in Article 1, Section 8. You have the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, as well as the Free Exercise Clause. Those are both about freedom of religion. You have the Preamble, which you should recognize. And you have the Supremacy Clause in Article 6, Clause 2, but that's basically talking about federalism. It's talking about how the federal government is supreme over the states. Pause this video, look at some of these other ones, but the ones I just highlighted are the ones that you should definitely know from the Constitution. All right, I'll make one more video just doing some general review, and that'll be it. So that's 4 videos, 1 hour total. Seems pretty good. See you in a minute.